When I first saw some posts on social media talking about Bill C-8, which is currently before the House of Commons, and suggesting that it'd be essentially or could delete people from the internet at the whims of the government, I thought it can't possibly be that bad. So I had a look at it, and we'll have a look at it together on this week's episode of Don't Talk TV. Hello, my name's Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. First of all, apologies for not having the live last week. Just too many real life things piled up all at once, and we just weren't able to put it together. We'll be back next month with a live. Also, I'm always forgetting to ask this at the beginning of the episode, so please, if you enjoy any of my content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share, spread the word. It's the only way we're going to grow. That said, we're going to have a look at Bill C-8, which, as I said in the preamble, I didn't think could possibly be as bad as some of the social media was making it look. But spoiler alert, I think it actually is that bad, and we'll have a look at that. But before we dive into that, we'll have a little word from my volunteer PR guy and his PR firm. He supports this channel by offering us a lot of work for free. So here's him.
Are you looking to increase your target market audience? Reach and/or engage with current or potential clients on social media? Or are you simply looking to rebrand or revamp a current or up-and-coming company or business? Well, look no further than Ram Design Group, Inc., your public relations insurance plan for your next company event, new product launch, or marketing campaign overhaul. Ram Design Group, Inc. specializes in marketing, event planning, product launches, communications, social media management, crisis management, copywriting, and much, much more. Please visit ramdesigngroupinc.ca for more information, or email us at rmitchell@ramdesigngroupinc.ca and book your company's future success today.
So that said, tonight's topic, as I said, is Bill C-8, an act respecting cybersecurity, amending the Telecommunications Act and making consequential amendments to other acts. So this is something that's currently a consideration in committee. We can see here that it's passed first reading, it's passed second reading, and now gone to consideration in committee. So there'll be third reading, and then it goes to Senate. And then if it makes it all the way through the Senate, which I really hope it won't, then it would go for royal assent. So let's go straight into the text of this, because that's where we're going to get these details. And I don't want to be doing anything secondhand. I mean, this is the bill as it stands right now. Let's go straight into the amendments of the Telecommunication Act and this Critical Cyber Systems Protection Act and what they're putting in there. So here we go, amendments to the Telecommunications Act. And this is what a lot of people have been talking about, and it's no surprise. Let me just zoom in a little bit more here. We'll zoom in on the English side. So here it is right here. If the governor and council, which effectively means the prime minister's office, because as I've discussed in previous episodes, the governor general really exercises no power. On paper, they have power, but in practice, they just do what the prime minister tells them. So this ultimately ends up being the prime minister's office. The governor and council believes on reasonable grounds that it is necessary to do so to secure the Canadian telecommunications system against any threat, including that of interference, manipulation, disruption, or degradation. And these words need to be taken in context of what sorts of things do the Liberal government of Canada, what sorts of things do they frequently denounce? Misinformation, manipulation of people's views, right? So the governor and council may, by order and after consultation with the persons that the governor and council considers appropriate, so it's up to the governor, the general, who they consult, could easily be no one, that they can prohibit a telecommunications service provider from using all products and services provided by a specified person. So basically, if a person, they can't do anything, they can't provide any services to a telecommunications service, if such an order is made, or sub B, direct a telecommunications service provider to remove all products provided by a specified person from its telecommunication networks. So if someone is saying the wrong thing, they could be removed. Now, of course, there's legitimate ways this could be used. If there's actually some sort of hacker or terrorist threat to our telecommunications system, but this is so broadly worded, that's the concern I think that arises, is that this can be used for a lot more than just a serious cyber attack. So now it does say that the provisions of the order must in scope and substance be reasonable in relation to the gravity of the threat, including that of interference, manipulation, disruption. Now, again, who defines reasonable? That would be the Governor General / the PMO. Although this is the section that would be used in court to try to, if someone gets deleted from the internet, this is how you would try to argue in court that it's not in keeping with subsection 2. Although how you'd even find a lawyer in today's day and age without access to the internet is beyond me. Now, this is a very troubling one. The order may also include a provision prohibiting the disclosure of its existence. So we're not just talking about banning someone's products from the internet without any sort of trial or due process. It can also be done completely in secret. Now, they do say considerations that must be made by the Governor General, but again, how do you do that? How do you manage that when it's literally just one person? As we've seen the wording, it's open to them who they choose to consult. The only way you can do that is by challenging it in court. Now, here's another important one. No one is entitled to any compensation from His Majesty and Right of Canada for any financial losses resulting from making an order. So if they order, just for example, say they order Etsy or some provider to completely delete your website because they don't like what you're selling, you're entitled to no compensation, even if a court ultimately overturns it. Now, then there's another under 15.2 sub 1, if there are reasonable grounds to believe that it's necessary to do so to secure the Canadian telecommunications systems, again, from any threat. Now, the minister may by order and after consultation with the Minister of Public Safety, so that's the individual who's working on taking everyone's firearms, they can prohibit a telecommunications service provider from providing any service to any specified person, and direct a telecommunication service provider to suspend providing for a specified period any services to any specified person. So this is where you can essentially be deleted from the internet. It says any person here. They can order telecommunications providers to not provide you any internet access. Now, there's probably ways around that with VPNs or public internet, but nevertheless, this is the order here. And the interesting thing is, what if someone did use a public computer? Now the service provider might be in contravention. Could there be more sweeping shutdowns so that these companies can avoid getting in trouble with the government? And again, they can impose conditions on a telecommunications service provider's provision of services to a specified person, including telecommunications service provider. Could also include you don't get to have a cell phone anymore or any banking. So there's all kinds of things here. And again, this has to be reasonable, but again, who defines reasonable? And the courts, you could be years trying to argue that your deletion from the internet was not reasonable. And again, this can be done in secret. So that's extremely troubling. These provisions it's extremely troubling, these provisions allowing for secretly removing people from the internet, keeping the order secret. It's there's so much room for abuse. I mean, there's a reason why our courts have always been open and why the concept of secret trials has generally been abhorrent to our society. And yet here we are. So C-8 does seem to be as bad as it looks. And then I had to look at Hansard, which is the recordings of the debates in Parliament. And in my view, the non-responses of the Liberal Party members really heighten that concern that this is like, I'm not being conspiratorial or overly alarmist, because let's look at what they have to say. So I'll put the link to this. I'm not going to go through it word for word, but Leslyn Lewis, she gave a speech talking about the concerns, her grave concerns about this, and how secret orders, broad powers, and no avenues for defense fail the tests under the Charter, the reasonable limits under the Charter, Section 7, Section 8. Canadians should not have to surrender their rights to remain secure. Security and freedom can coexist. I think these are excellent points made by Leslyn Lewis. She then gives a hypothetical or a concrete example, imagining a citizen, Sarah, who's frustrated with government programs she believes is mismanaged and corrupt. In her frustration, she posts online threatening to expose government corruption. In any event, you can read her entire speech, but the person gets completely banned off the internet. And so she says that it's not just a hypothetical, it's a warning. C-8 risks turning ordinary Canadians into prisoners of secrecy, silenced without cause, and stripped of their most basic rights. So certainly Dr. Lewis is seeing some of the same things I am and is trying to ask the government about this. So then, Kevin Lamoureux, what does he respond? Does he defend the legislation? Does he point out, no, you're wrong in your interpretation? Here's a section that counteracts what you're saying. No, he just says, well, the minister has been clear as we've gone through this legislation that it's important, that the legislation is important. I recently highlighted that we need to protect the consumers of our economy through cybersecurity. It's not optional for the government to do it. So he just goes off on this riff about how necessary it is and not defending it at all, not saying that anything Dr. Lewis said is wrong, and then just going into trying to throw it back to her, like, well, would the member not agree at the very least that having cybersecurity to protect the Canadian economy is absolutely critical and that we must have legislation? Maybe it's just a question of having some amendments. So then, of course, Dr. Lewis, this is an important bill, etc. Well, anyway, she's got to play the game a bit, I guess. She continues along, talking again about Sarah, saying she doesn't think blocking people like her from the internet should be the intent of the legislation. Again, then we have another Liberal just saying, you said that this cybersecurity bill is important. You focus a lot on Sarah's story, and we agree that it's important to protect people's privacy. Again, not saying that anything she said was wrong or misinterpreted or that she's missing important sections with safeguards. Just saying, to reassure the public, could you tell us what benefits you see in this bill? Will you work with us in committee to get it passed? Again, what they're not saying, in my view, clearly confirms the interpretation of Dr. Lewis, the one that I've presented here and the one that others have presented. The doctor continues on. Then Matt Strauss, Kitchener South Hespeler, Conservative MP, so somewhat near my area, has a good speech. I'm not going to go through it, but he talks about, he points out the exact same sections I talked about, right? Talking about if there's reasonable grounds to believe it's necessary to do so, that they can prohibit a telecommunications provider from providing any service. So he's zeroing in right on the section that I've talked about. And he said, as far as I can tell, the Liberals' incautious and bombastic use of terms like misinformation, being any information they do not like, or existential threat, and references the fact that the Liberal member from Burlington North Milton West called Pierre Poilievre an existential threat to our democracy. I think he's spot on here. He says that the clause cited reaches Chinese Communist Party levels of government overreach, and Liberals should be ashamed of themselves. And then it gets worse. He goes through the sections I went through. He continues on, and then. Again, Mr. Lamoureux responds, and again, he doesn't deny anything or point out, no, you've misunderstood it. Look at this section. Look at that section. No, he just says, the Conservatives are making extreme outlandish claims. The member opposite tries to say the Liberal Party is going to take away the internet, take away cell phones, and deny people the opportunity to do their banking. Conservatives have to come up with a whole conspiracy theory. Now, in my view, when they start hauling out the words conspiracy theory, they've got nothing. All they've got is ad hominem attacks and nothing to actually defend this bill. So everything that Mr. Strauss said would appear to be true, because Mr. Lamoureux can't contradict any of it other than just saying that they're making extreme outlandish claims without showing how is it extreme or outlandish. He's quoting the bill. They're not saying that you've misquoted it or here's the section you've missed. And once again, they go back to the same talking point. Does the member see any merit in having cybersecurity legislation that would ensure the interests of Canadians are being served? Does he not see merit in protecting these things? So again, they're just trying to, they're not denying what's being said. They're just saying, no, we just need to do this. We need this power. So as I said, that fortifies me in my view that C-8 is what it appears to be. And I would adopt the words of Mr. Strauss that this is Chinese Communist Party levels of government overreach. That's what it appears to be. And it seems to completely violate the charter as outlined by Dr. Lewis. So this is something, I mean, if you have a Conservative Party MP, you're preaching to the choir. Maybe you can give them some encouragement, but maybe if you have an NDP member of parliament, bombard them of where are they? They're supposed to be the protectors of the common man. Where are they in all of this? And Liberal Party members of parliament should be ashamed, as Mr. Strauss said, for bringing this forward. In my view, again, it's just so clearly contrary to what's stated in the charter. But Canadians shouldn't have to live with such legislation and wait years for the courts to resolve it. In the meantime, who knows who could have their internet rights revoked and their phone rights and their banking rights revoked because the Governor and Council, i.e. the PMO, views them as a threat. And again, consider what sorts of things are considered threats. We'll talk next week about the sentencing of Tamara Litch and Mr. Barber. Sorry, I've forgotten his first name. We'll talk about that next week. I'd like to have the actual decision released. We'll talk about some other sentencings, such as 10 years for making Nazi memes by that Dark Foreigner person. We've talked about him a couple times. The case is finally over. I think looking at who's getting the hammer dropped on them in sentencing for speech-related crimes may give us some insight into who's really going to be under the crosshairs of Bill C-8, should it make its way through, which it's made it very quickly through first and second readings. So it seems that the Bloc Québécois and or the NDP are fully supporting it. We'll have to follow that as we go along. That said, this video is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, contact a lawyer. They can give you advice specifically tailored to your situation. If you want me to be that lawyer, my contact information is listed below. If you have any topics you'd like to see us discuss on the show, please send an email to the email address going along the bottom right now. That's don'ttalktv@protonmail.com. Please don't send to my law firm address, email@wansbetter.com, because they'll most likely get missed or ignored because different people monitor these. And so just send it to don'ttalktv@protonmail.com. And again, if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, as I asked at the beginning, please like, share, subscribe, and follow us on social media.